Welcome to the Cake Academy podcast, the podcast for cake makers who want to raise their standards, price with confidence, and build a business that actually works. I'm Cheryl, cake business coach and founder of Cheryl Bottomley Cake Academy and Tier & Co cake management software. And each week I'm going to be sharing honest conversations, practical strategies, and real industry insights to help you move from simply making cakes to running a profitable and sustainable cake business. So if you're ready to stop undercharging, stop second guessing, and start building something stronger, you are in the right place. So let's get into today's episode. In episode 4 today, we are going to be talking about your inquiry to booking process. And this is the system that turns inquiries into bookings. So welcome back. And if you missed episode number 3, we talked about conversion rates and why understanding your conversion and your inquiry numbers is so important. Because once you know how many inquiries you need to reach your booking goals, something becomes very, very clear. And those inquiries need to turn into bookings. And that's exactly where many cake makers unknowingly lose potential work. So today we are going to follow on very, very nicely to look at the inquiry to booking journey and what actually happens between when someone sends you an inquiry and then deciding to actually book with you. Because getting fully booked isn't just about generating those inquiries. It's also about what happens after someone reaches out, whether that's weddings or whether that is someone looking for a celebration cake as well. Now, when someone sends you an inquiry, it's not a casual action. They've already found you, they've looked at your work, and they've decided that they like your style, and then they've taken the time to get in touch. And that is real interest, and it is what I call hot leads. But I'm just going to throw a caveat in here. It's still quite fragile at this point. And if there isn't a clear, confident process guiding them forward, that interest can disappear very, very quickly. And that's why two cake makers can basically have the same amount of inquiries, but one ends up far more booked than the other. And it's just down to the process that they have. Okay, so let's have a look at the breakdown of where bookings are usually lost. And these are some of the most common places where cake makers lose the bookings without actually realizing. So the first one is slow inquiries or slow responses, should I say. And it's not intentional. You know, life gets busy, especially when you're juggling things like baking, decorating, deliveries, family, and everything else in between. But even 24 to 48 hours can cool that momentum of that inquiry. So we want to be really responding as quickly as we can. Um, so couples planning their events, they're planning the weddings, they're planning birthdays or other celebrations, and they are often contacting multiple suppliers at the same time. So speed creates that confidence, and it also basically sets yourself a process to follow. So don't be one of these that's setting yourself like a weekly admin day where you're responding to inquiries, because you probably have gone have lost them by then. And if you think about another cake maker that's responding, say for example, within that 24 hours, they're more than likely going to get the booking ahead of yourself. So set yourself a target to respond within 24 hours. Now, another reason may be overwhelming information. And this is another common issue where we can send too much information too quickly. So it could be things like really long emails, or you might be including like every single flavor option that you've got on your menu, or even every possible price variation as well. And sometimes we do this instead of guiding someone forward, and it can actually make that decision more overwhelming for that couple or that customer, and a lot more complicated as well. But what you need to do instead is have a clear next steps. Now, sometimes an inquiry is answered and then nothing. You might reply, they reply, and then both sides are kind of like waiting and you don't really know what's happening next. But a strong inquiry system will always give couples a clear next step. So, what is that next step for you? So, just have a think. What do you want that couple or that customer to do? Do you want them to pay a booking fee? Do you want them to book a sample box? Have a think about what that might be. Do you want to book them in on a 15-minute call just to have a catch up and get that personalization in there? Now, another thing is lack of personalisation. Um, Another place that bookings can quietly slip away is when responses feel too generic. Now, some cake makers like use a standard email templates. And they'll send the exact same message to every single inquiry. Now, don't get me wrong, templates are helpful, and I would always recommend having some response templates that you can copy and paste just to make it quick and easy. However, you need to basically personalize them. So, obviously, having those response templates does save time and it helps you stay organized. But people will usually know when it's like a template, basically. And just think, ordering a cake is very personal. So if someone mentions something like their venue, their theme, their style, or a cake that they love, acknowledging that in your response basically makes that conversation feel more human, doesn't it? Like if you think about like you receiving that response template, how would you want to feel? You'd want to make that person feel special, regardless of whether it's a birthday cake or celebration or a wedding cake. And something as simple as mentioning the venue or people that you know at the venue, the day of their celebration or the style can make a huge difference. It shows that you've read their inquiry properly and you're already thinking about their cake specifically. And that personalization builds that connection straight away. And then that connection will build trust. And it doesn't need to be complicated. Like I've said, it just needs to be something that personalizes that response that you send to them. Now, the next one is a bit of a bugbear of mine, and it's no follow up process in place. Having no follow up process can create leaks in your cake business. And I want you to remember silence doesn't always mean no. So I'm going to repeat that. Silence doesn't always mean no. Often it simply means that that person might have got busy, they've got distracted, they may be overwhelmed by all the planning that they've got to do, and think again about how busy their own life might be. And without a follow up, inquiries can quickly disappear. So, again, remember if a couple or a customer is inquiring with different cake makers, it'll be the ones that are keeping in front of mind that will probably get the bookings. Now, I want you to remember it's not pushy. And from my own experiences, I get bookings from third follow ups. And actually, I've actually got bookings from five follow ups when I've tested the process. And that would have been money left on the table. I'd have lost that money in my business. So even if it feels uncomfortable at first, it does get easier. And what I want you to do as well when you're following up is track how many times that you're following up with each customer, because once you know roughly like how many times you follow up to converting that inquiry into a booking, you've then got yourself a follow-up process. So for example, if you get bookings from 4 follow-ups, you know then your process is 4 follow-ups. If it's 3, then you know it's 3. So make sure that you've set that proper follow up process in your business and follow it. So I just want to just do a bit of a recap. So remember that you need to have a prompt response time. So if you haven't got templates, get them set up to make it easier. But just remember that you need to personalize them. Make sure that you've got clear next steps like call to action. So what do you want that that person to do, that customer to do. So do you need more information, which is usually the case from the first inquiry? Do you need them to secure the date with a booking fee? Do you want them to order a sample box? Do you want them to book a 15-minute chat? Whatever that may be, make sure that you've got those clear next steps in place. Make sure that you've got your follow-up process. If you haven't heard back, follow up with a polite response and keep that conversation open. And remember, it's not pushy, it's professional. And at some point, the customer will either decide to secure the date with you or they'll release it. And a good inquiry process just gently reminds them to that point. So I want you to just go back, and if you haven't listened to it already, go back and watch episode 3 where we talked about conversion rates, because obviously we've got targets to hit, and all of this will help with you hitting your conversion rate. So if we remember back from episode 3, we talked about if you want to book like 50 cakes in, for example, and your conversion rate is 50%, it means that you need 100 inquiries coming in. So having these processes where we are trying to convert as many inquiries into bookings really, really helps with those targets that you've got in place. Now, if you're managing inquiries through places like Instagram DMs, email threads, WhatsApp messages, you've got bits of inquiries scribbled down on bits of paper or in a notebook, just remember that those inquiries can easily slip through the nets, okay? And this is exactly why I created Tier & Co cake management software, because you can track your inquiries, you can set follow-ups in there so that everything is in one place, and it will tell you your conversion rate. So it kind of ties everything nicely together. So if you want to come and have a 14-day free trial in Tier & Co cake management software, just click the link in the show notes and you can come and have that 14-day free trial. Obviously, it does much more than tracking, inquiring, and conversion rates. It's a whole cake management software where you can also take payments for your orders as well. But yes, you can find that in the show notes. But do let me know if you have listened to this episode and you've put some of these processes in place. Let me know how it's gone. And if you've got any questions, please do ask. And I will see you in next week's episode, episode 5. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Cake Academy podcast. If today's episode gave you clarity, challenged your thinking, or helped you look at your cake business differently, make sure that you check the show notes below for any links, tools, or resources that's been mentioned. If this episode helped you in any way, I'd really appreciate it if you shared it with another cake maker. You can leave a rating or you can write a review. These simple actions make a real difference and help more cake makers find practical, honest guidance for building a stronger business. You can also watch the full episode over on YouTube, where I share the full conversation and any visuals that supports today's topic. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next episode.